happy that you could join us again, that we meet. I presume that most of you were here the first time. And I welcome those that are coming to meet us in the Rayburn building for the second time. I want to thank Ms. Tolson very much for facilitating with our staff this meeting. Now, we had some women from California that were in my office last evening, and they wanted to talk to me about impeachment. And I wanted to find out, what is it, 4 of them, Eric? Oh, you don't know about it. Okay. There were 3 or 4, but I told them I was meeting with the Veterans for Peace this morning. I didn't have time to meet with them anyway, but if it came up, I wanted to get your permission to let them sit in the back of the room because it's the same subject. Thank you.
Can I time out for 1 second? Sorry. Okay.
Should we start this process?
Yes, sir. We're ready to start.
Great, Congressman. As Steve said, glad to meet you before, and again, we sent those questions over to you, which are on your office, which are ones which are particularly on our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We had thought that a process that would work for us, I don't know if it would work for you, would be that you would, obviously you have thought this out and now have a chance to tell us how you think this process should work and how it should go ahead. Then several of our members have some brief statements.
Sure.
We're going to make a big effort to keep them brief, and then we will go on to follow-up questions, if that works for you as a process.
Works fine.
Great. And we will have all the audience, if you feel you have questions, please, or other participants, please, not audience. If you have other questions, if you can write them on cards, then pass them forward, and we'll try to answer those questions from this panel. With that, and then I assume that what we could do is after the meeting is submit additional questions that we don't have time for.
Absolutely.
Would that work?
Oh yeah, this is a continuing relationship. This isn't just one meeting that costs 2 meetings and that's it. And the reason that I say that this is a continuing relationship because my mind isn't made up. And if my mind isn't made up, I can't cut off the discussion and my mind still isn't made up. I don't know what the results of this meeting will be, of course. But I welcome you warmly to the Congress. We want to get started. I've got some material. Did we pass out some things that we did?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. So, these questions
there are some few concerns to many of the questions that could.
Well, I can handle all of these questions pretty quickly. If my mind is not made up, how can I tell you when will impeachment proceedings begin? So, I'll be happy to discuss my position with you. It's laid out. You maybe hear about it more than you would like to. But I want to make sure we use our time as wisely for me to hear from you. And of course you can ask me all the questions you want. Because this is a deliberative process. This is not an emotional jag or something that we premeditated. This is one of the most important, if not the most important question that's before us. Maybe going to war would be a subject matter I would put on top of this one. So I don't take this matter lightly. So let's begin. Who wants to start off?
Okay, let's move to, just so the board, so our panel is aware, let's move to the statements. Joe, do you want to start out?
Dear Chairman Conyers, each of us here, representing many thousands, has given much thought to what can be done to staunch the erosion of our Bill of Rights, make everyone, including public officials, obey the law, restore separation of powers and checks and balances. In short, how to reclaim our country from elected and appointed executive officials and their congressional enablers who openly or by their silence subvert all that we Americans teach our children to cherish and hold fast. The right to live in a country that requires everyone to obey its laws, to not be held indefinitely without due process by compelling those holding you to justify that detention before a judge, habeas corpus. The right to be free from unwarranted government intrusion or surveillance, to be left alone, to be free from unelected officials who write secret memos, findings, directives, executive orders, presidential orders, and speeches that replace common words, having clear meanings with weasel words and euphemisms. For example, torture and abuse become enhanced interrogation techniques, kidnapping or disappearing becomes extraordinary rendition, waging preemptive war on any nation that the president chooses becomes liberation, regime change, bringing freedom and democracy, spying is terrorist surveillance, murder and assassination or targeted killing. And I can go on to another one. Collateral damage. A person deemed unworthy of legal rights is an illegal enemy combatant. Laws that codify indefinite imprisonment, confessions under duress, torture, denial of due process, and judicial oversight, Detainee Treatment Act, and Military Commissions Act. A U.S. prison beyond the reach of U.S. and international law, Guantanamo, immunity for soldiers and contractors from prosecution by U.S. or international courts, status of forces agreement. A constitutional republic endures only when citizens can trust that those we elect will do what is in the best interests of their constituents and all Americans, that our representatives' foremost loyalty is to us, not party, political advantage, or election strategy. You and representatives we entrust with great power demonstrate that you honor your oath to, quote, protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, by holding answerable those who violate laws, especially President Bush and Vice President Cheney, who pledged, quote, to see the laws are faithfully executed. With mounting documented evidence of violations of law, how can you not open impeachment hearings? If you do nothing to hold the President and Vice President accountable, you will send a signal that our laws apply only to the people and not those we elect. It is wishful thinking to believe elections will replace them with someone we can trust. Power once acquired, as you well know, is not readily relinquished. History shows that any president, Republican or Democrat, will use that power to do exactly what he wants, and then he, not the Supreme Court or the judiciary, as Justice John Marshall asserted, will say what the law is. If you permit the Bush Cheney power grab to stand, its precedent unchallenged, we will lose our free country. I ask you to use your power, exercise your political will, rise above party calculations. There is no need to remake a case you've already made in your book, and I've read it, The Constitution in Crisis, subtitled A Blueprint for Impeachment. Convene hearings, reassert Congress's power as a co-equal branch, and save our republic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What is your last name?
Adamante.
Adamante. I could guess how it's called. Maybe
Would you like us to give you a list of all of us when we get done?
yeah, but I'd like to
Okay.
know your name as we go along. But I would like to, because I want to stay in touch.
Congressman Frelinghuysen's district. You probably know him.
Yeah. How do you spell your last name?
A-double-T-A-M-A-N-T-E.
A-double-T-A-M-A-N-T-E. Thank you very much. Do we have a copy?
I think you have a copy of that.
Oh, we go. This is just yours?
No.
Do we have everybody's?
Everybody's, Congressman.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Next, Ron Fisher.
I'm Ron Fisher. I'm U.S. Navy retired. I honorary graduate of the Naval Academy. And I made 50 submarine patrols during the Vietnam and Cold War. I really learned responsibility there. Served in destroyers as an engineering duty officer. Awards from the Navy include the Legion of Merit and Vietnam Service Medal. As a very junior officer, what I'll do is a summary court-martial officer, trial counsel, defense counsel, court-martial officer. And I did practice restorative justice. Our justice system is about 1 million times better than what we have in this country today, by far.
And where?
The military system we had on board that destroyer as a collateral duty was 1 million times better than what we have today in our court system. We had restorative justice. We looked after the people. We took care of that. Our country today has that. We've politicized the Department of Justice. Congress has allowed that to happen. I have a very good understanding of the Constitution, the Convention, what constitutes reasonable searches, probable cause, constitutional statutes, and human rights. We would not, our submarines would not get back to port. We operated like this Congress is operating today. The United States has 9%. I think you're doing a good job. It's 9%, lowest ever. It is imperative that Cheney and Bush be replaced immediately, and we all have the confidence that this can be done and must be done. We have to prevent an attack on Iraq. There's no other way to try it. Now, I have a website, wethepeoplenow.org. It has a memorandum of law that explains the Constitution. I don't think I should be here having to explain that, but I hear people saying they're taking away our rights, they're shredding the Constitution. That's BS. They're violating our rights. These are violations of rights, many under color of law. Many, and there's great civil rights laws that's supposed to prevent that. But our rights are being violated. They're not taking away the rights. They can't shred the Constitution. The only way you can take away our rights is to amend the Constitution. Very clearly. I can tell you 15 other things that's wrong with our law today. Now, Tash is a People's Action Plan to replace President Bush and others well-qualified individuals. Here's a copy of my statement. I won't be able to go through the whole thing, but and there is that plan. It's on my website. And we have a plan on there also to get out of Iraq. And I've given that to Congressmen. I've given it to my congressmen. They're doing nothing about it. And I believe appropriating money for an illegal war is a crime. It's a high crime. This $170 billion they just gave to Bush to continue this war is a crime. It's a criminal act. And I've faxed that over to every senator and most of the congressmen on this. And when I say this, as a congressman and chairman of the Judiciary Committee, you owe certain legal duties to the U.S. troops, the people, and your constituents, all of whom rely upon you to perform these legal duties. These legal duties, including not allowing troops to fight and die in an illegal war, not allowing funding for an illegal war, and impeaching government officials, and also not allowing unconstitutional legislation to be passed, such as the Military Commission Act. You cannot take away people's rights with legislation. The Military Commission Act is unconstitutional, null and void. The critical thing, though, is you have allowed U.S. troops to fight and die in an illegal war, have allowed funding legislation for an illegal war, and have failed to instigate impeachment proceedings against Vice President Cheney and President Bush, who have both committed numerous high crimes and misdemeanors, as it was your legal duty to do. It was your legal duty to impeach these people. And this is not all that needs to be done. Our country is in a political, constitutional, environmental, and economic crisis. Our democracy is being eroded by individuals in all three branches of our government who have no allegiance to the founding principle of our republic and who scoff at the idea of accountability to the people and the rule of law. This is all written down there. They're taking this country in directions that are very damaging, They're making decisions and taking actions behind closed doors without consulting with we the people, as it is our right under our system of self-government. There's not nearly enough time to cover everything that needs to be covered. I request that you personally read my website, wethepeoplenow.org, and work with me, the Veterans of Peace, and all these other organizations to get our country on track. Thank you very much. wethepeoplenow.org. It's a little bit wordy, but it has, as I am, it has a lot of, I think, some good information there for you.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Tony Teolis.
My name is Anthony Teolis. I'm a U.S. Army Field Artillery veteran. Chairman Conyers, you probably know my congressional representative, Tom Davis, pretty well. Last year, Captain Fisher and myself and several others from Northern Virginia met with Tom Davis a total of 3 times. At the last meeting, after he had decided not to run for re-election in 2008, he looked at us after we pleaded with him one more time to take our case and our needs for impeachment to his colleagues in the Congress. And he looked at us and he said, look, in Congress we don't solve issues. We use issues to garner and cherish the power that we have. Veterans for Peace has presented you with a list of laws violated by President George Bush, Vice President Cheney, public officials under their authority, and members of the U.S. military under their command sufficient for impeachment. These laws are listed over there to your left. As difficult as this is to contemplate, it is clear, if you are willing to look, the steps necessary for a state to take control of individuals' lives are already complete in America. Our so-called leaders invoke fear. The United States owns or outsources secret prisons where torture takes place. The United States has paramilitary forces not answerable to its citizens. The United States spies on its citizens. The media is owned by corporations that run the military-industrial complex. Our representative form of government is corrupt, ineffective, and unresponsive to its citizens. The United States treats all political dissents as traitors, and the United States Congress has suspended the rule of law. The probable future of America, if impeachment is not pursued and successful, is dark. The day is coming when another unprovoked act of aggression by the United States or an attack on the United States will result in the equivalent of a Reichstag fire decree. Massive detentions will be ordered and the flame of liberty will be extinguished for good. The United States may attempt to continue a facade of constitutional government, but only until financial bankruptcy overcomes it. This will not be the end of America, but rather the beginning of military rule, revolution, or some new development not yet imaginable. You have stated that Congress must listen to its constituency, not the Constitution. Thus, we are not pursuing impeachment because the people have not risen out in a loud voice to call for impeachment. However, you do not listen to the people because the occupations, the illegal occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan have continued unimpeded. If it is true that you listen to the constituency and not the Constitution, then why do we not just take the Constitution and just throw it away today? That way you will leave us with no oath to continue to uphold, nor yourself. If our preferred future is not what I have just described, then we must project ourselves into the near future and ask ourselves, what are the things that we did to achieve this preferred future? Without doubt, impeachment is one of the pursuits that regained our dignity and republic. Chairman Conyers, if you do not pursue impeachment, there is a real danger that we, Veterans for Peace, could be tried, imprisoned, and possibly executed. You will have our blood on your hands. You have ruined the lives of our children and hastened the demise of this nation we proudly serve. The future does not look good, but we are not afraid. A tyrannical government's greatest fear is a fearless resistance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Teolis.
Thank you for listening.
Eric Goff.
Congressman, my name is Tara. I'm from Maurice Hinch's district. 3.5 years U.S. Army, 101st Avenue.
Give me that name again.
Tara, T-A-R-A-K.
T-A-R-H-A.
A-K.
T-A-R-A-K. Last name?
K-A-U-F-F.
Okay.
Congressman, obviously there's no lack of evidence regarding the Bush administration's criminality. By your own written account in Constitution in Crisis, there's no denying that grievous high crimes and misdemeanors have been committed by this administration. In light of this, failure to do your sworn duty to uphold the Constitution and begin impeachment proceedings is inexcusable. This is not meant to be an insult to your character, but a simple yet terrible statement of fact, a dereliction of duty by this Congress that can easily be seen as collaboration with and appeasement of the most criminal regime in American history. The Democratic Congress, which was elected to end the war and restrain Bush's excesses, has not only failed to impeach the most impeachable president and vice president in our history, but they have funded an illegal war of aggression with over $700 billion in taxpayers' money. This failure to act decisively to stop the Bush regime is even more serious. It has put the future of civilization at risk. Look at the blood, tears, and suffering of countless human beings whose lives have been devastated as a result of the crimes of the Bush administration. War crimes and crimes against humanity. The use of torture, removal of habeas corpus, massive deception, lying to and spying on the American public, the lives of thousands of American servicemen and women, and possibly over 1 million Iraqi lives lost, and many other crimes, too many to list here, that you and this Democratic Congress have not addressed, let alone stopped. How much destructive evil does this administration have to accomplish before you will act? The virtual silence of this Democratic Congress in the face of a totalitarian takeover of America is deafening. I agree with Albert Einstein, who said, the world is in greater peril from those who tolerate evil than from those who actually commit it. Now you say you will impeach after an attack on Iran? This to me is a hollow threat. I mean, what good will impeachment do then for the hundreds of thousands who will be killed, and yet another, even larger war has been started? You have said that you hold the calculator in one hand and the Constitution in another. Well, maybe it's time to put the calculator away. The weakness of the Democratic Congress has allowed the establishment of a unitary executive, something our founders desperately wanted to avoid, and their collective failure to address this criminal takeover has cast a pall of international shame on what was once the good name of these United States of America. Because of the abject cowardice of this Congress, Bush and company now act with absolute impunity and complete disdain of both public opinion and whatever legislation Congress passes. The Congress has allowed a misguided, arrogant puppet and his cohorts to assume absolute power and wreak havoc. Nancy Pelosi has dictated that the one effective constitutional tool, impeachment, that Congress has to address this is off the table. And they and you have so far followed this ignorance like obedient sheep, forgive me to say. I would like to remind you of what you said only a few years ago. Quote, I believe it is imperative that we never lose our voice of dissent regardless of political pressure. As Martin Luther King told us, there comes a time when silence is betrayal, end quote. How ironic and sad that you are the same man who once again wrote in the introduction to Constitution in Crisis of the, quote, dangerous combination of an imperial Bush presidency and a compliant GOP Congress. And further regarding the then GOP Congress, quote, it is unforgivable that Congress has been unwilling to examine these matters or take actions to prevent these circumstances from occurring, end quote. The veterans here are asking you for perhaps the last time to immediately begin the impeachment hearings that should have become in 2007 when the Democrats took back control of Congress. For the good of the country and the benefit of humanity, drop the political calculations and just do your constitutional duty. Do what Americans today will respect and history tomorrow will remember as the right thing to do. I ask you to be a leader, not a collaborator. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And last, we have Adam Kokesh.
Thank you for meeting with us today.
Yes, I remember you. Tell me your name again.
Okay.
First name.
Adam.
How do you spell the last?
K-O-K-E-S-H
K-O-K-E-S-A.
at H.
K-O-K-E-S-H.
Yes, sir. Before I make any statement, I'd like to have just 3 questions answered. I think what a lot of our representatives fail to see that we are trying to underscore and bring awareness to here are the consequences of not impeaching. And there may be positive and negative, and I'd like to know what you see as the consequences of impeaching or not impeaching. I'd like to know what is currently holding you back from beginning impeachment proceedings. And the last time we met in this very room, you asked us to come back so that we could hear your plans on the issue of impeachment, and that your plans may surprise us. So at this point, if any, what are your plans regarding the issue of impeachment?
Well, you're asking the last question first. The last 2 questions should precede the third one.
You can answer them in any order you want, sir.
Well, let's start off in the way that you started. Let's take question number 1. What is it?
Consequences
Oh,
of impeaching or not impeaching. What do you see as the consequences of impeaching or not impeaching?
well, the consequences are pretty large. We have 2 directions that we can go in. There will be enormous consequences no matter which way we decide to go. So I see the consequences as being historic. I see them as having an immediate effect upon the body politic in America. I see them as shaping how impeachments will be handled in the future and years to come. So I think there are enormous consequences involved in this decision, and that's why I haven't arrived at one yet. What's question number 2?
What is holding you back from beginning impeachment proceedings at this point?
Well, as I've said before, what's holding me back is that I haven't decided to do them. And Nancy Pelosi is not holding me back. When she said that she took it off the table, she meant she took it off her table. She didn't take it off of my table. So the fact that you describe what I'm doing as something holding me back is merely the fact that I haven't decided. I made thousands of decisions in the course of this high responsibility that I have. And so it's not a matter of some force holding me back. When you haven't made a decision, I don't describe it as being held back. If there was something holding me back, we wouldn't be meeting right now. What's the third question?
Well, you called us back here to hear your plans. What are your plans?
Well, my plans right at this moment are to, first of all, there have been probably almost 100 issues raised here in the course of 20, 25 minutes. I plan to go over them and review them, plus a statement that was, I suppose, collectively put together. So that's what we want. What I want to do right now is go over them and respond to them as fully as I can, and if necessary, or if you want to, re-meet with you again.
So when you said that you were going to tell us your plans today when we came back the last time we met, you weren't referring to any particular plans other than to review what we were going to be giving you at this meeting, which you hadn't heard yet.
Well, I didn't have any idea of what, I didn't have any plan or non-plan in mind. It's just that events between the weeks that we were together have prevented me from coming forward with a plan. I do not have a plan here today to reveal to you. So, I've got far more, we're having a far more substantive discussion. And I've had the Constitution, the history of this country, the laws of the land, the legislative branch, all described, explained, and revealed to me. So I want to talk about, I want to consider that, all the statements and all the questions that may come forward, and then I'm going to respond to all of that.
Can I ask you a question? What are you waiting for to make your decision?
If I may, I'd like to share a story from my service that I feel is relevant here, and that is that I was in Fallujah, February, September 2004 with the Marine Corps Civil Affairs team, and during the siege of Fallujah, a young Lance Corporal was shot through the side of his flak jacket in a firefight to the west of the city. And my team was called to assist in the medevac to get him to the field hospital at Camp Dakota. And he was on a stretcher in the Humvee in front of me, and I watched the corpsman treating the external wound, and that frightened, hurried panic on the road. And when we got there, I was there to help unload him and carry him in on the stretcher, and he was moaning and writhing in pain, barely conscious. And he flailed his arm off the stretcher, and as I put it back on and put it by his side, I told him, "You made it. You're going to be all right. We got you here. You're going to be okay." And he died only minutes later from the internal bleeding. And I get the feeling that what you're doing and what the Democratic Party is doing is telling this country, as we are being bled dry by tyrants, that we're just going to be okay. That the only promises we get from Democrats are Band-Aids over these far deeper wounds than anyone is willing to really admit to publicly. Here, one of the arguments against impeachment is that it would harm the Democrats in the upcoming elections. And I hope that you realize, because you didn't communicate this when I asked you the question, that there are real consequences to not impeaching that are far, far worse than not having Democrats in Congress and the Senate or a Democrat in the White House, especially if you're concerned about the future of the occupation of Iraq, because at this point it seems that if you take either of them at their word, McCain is actually a better anti-war candidate than Obama. Now, a lot of people have said publicly, Democratic representatives, that impeachment would harm Democrats' chances. But by history's example, with the impeachment of President Nixon, or rather the drawing up of articles of impeachment for President Nixon, we find that the opposite is actually the case. And that after that episode, the Democrats won back a landslide in both houses. And the offenses committed by the Nixon administration, as heinous as they were, really don't hold a candle to anything that the Bush Cheney administration has accomplished. the perception of the public towards Democrats now as being a sorry excuse for an opposition party is solidified every day that we have to wait for impeachment. And I know that you've recently subpoenaed Karl Rove, who is currently thumbing his nose at not just the judiciary and yourself, but really the entire Democratic Party, rule of law, and the Constitution. You said you've made thousands of decisions, many of them very respectable, many of them very courageous. But by your own admission, it seems that what's holding you back from this one is your own indecision. You said that I might be surprised by your plans. You haven't put forth any, and frankly, I'm not surprised. I'm very disappointed.
We are done with the statements we have. I'm not clear. We had been most of our expectation that we were going to hear from you this time, what your plan was, what you thought we were going to go ahead. You had told us that you had not had a chance to review the Kucinich articles of impeachment, or your attorneys had not, and that by the time we came to this meeting, you would have a chance to review those. So I think at this point, I have to intersect. I think we come as a very angry and disillusioned group at the government, the whole process. So we are hoping that, I think we are all expecting that we will hear from you where you think we are going now, where you are going to take us as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, or whether we leave here, can I say, empty-handed and disillusioned.
Well, you were an angry and disillusioned group when I first met you. And you may continue to be. But let me...
Oh, we're getting angry.
And you're getting angry. Okay.
So, I
I guess that doesn't mean anything.
guess.
Well, it means a lot.
Can we hold off the questions?
I'm sorry you're getting angrier. That doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So, this isn't a therapy session we're having. Some people are angry, some people are disappointed, some people are both. I happen to have feelings too, just like you. So I'm interested in all the emotions and passion. I've got some emotions and passions not much differently from other human beings in this room and on the planet. If I can turn now, before I make any further comments, Karl Rove, July 10th subpoena, inherent contempt, please comment. Inherent contempt is it? Whose question is this? Okay. Inherent contempt is a special process for people who refuse to come before the Congress to give testimony under oath, which allows the sergeant of arms to go out and arrest the person involved that's violating the due process of the Congress, and bring them to the chamber of the House of Representatives and to determine what will happen to them until such time as they agree to appear before the committee. In this case, it's the Committee on the Judiciary. And that is a process rarely used, but it is being thoroughly vetted right now to be used for the first time in many decades.
Tomorrow?
Not tomorrow.
The subpoena calls for him to show tomorrow. I imagine he'll...
No, it's not tomorrow. It's not tomorrow.
I imagine he'll go for executive privilege and that'll be tied up in the courts. Is there any way we
No,
can stress it?
no, not if you're arrested. Executive privilege, that's precisely what it is created for, is to get around
Right.
all the legal excuses. That's what Harriet Myers and Josh Bolton did, is take it into court.
Is it a clear matter of law that he must appear, must respond to a congressional subpoena? Is that a clear matter of law?
Oh,
I think that's the question.
yeah.
So therefore,
Even the Department of Justice concedes that.
consequences will follow.
Absolutely.
That's the question.
Who is vetting in her contempt?
Who is what?
Who's vetting? Are these
vetting.
staff members of the judiciary?
Our committee, our lawyers, our members of the committee, and me.
Do you think we can rest assured that it would be a vote to counter his disregard of the subpoena?
No. And the reason is that it has to be approved by a majority of the members in the House of Representatives.
Does the recommendation then come from your committee to
Yes.
the full House?
Oh, yes, exactly.
That is be approved, however,
Exactly.
it requires a clear majority.
Yes, and it would have to pass my committee first and then go to the House to be approved. And that would be approved or denied by this body of people that you have described in a number of negative terms from the first name that we all know.
The Vichy Democrats.
We've gotten a little, this is a very important issue, but it's kind of gotten off the important impeachment issue. And we have had the specific questions we gave your office, which we would like to get answered. What's that?
There were two more questions here.
Okay, we have some other questions along those lines also.
Okay. Kucinich on Thursday night, July 10th, will read one charge containing 7 lies. Please elaborate. Well, today's July 9th. So I don't know. I was with Dennis Kucinich and talking to him yesterday. So I'll be looking forward to this for tomorrow. By the way, he did raise a very important question about Iran, in which there was a resolution in which this resolution introduced, I don't know who it was introduced by, required the Congress to approve us in effect, if I understood him, giving the executive branch the powers to move in on the waters around Iran in a military way, and that this would be taking us one step toward beginning a war. There was another member, and there were other members there that disagreed with this interpretation of it. I have not seen that resolution, but it could be Dennis Kucinich. If Dennis Kucinich is correct, it could be very troubling, since we're trying to keep out of war rather than giving. This would be the reverse of what I'm trying to do, is to make sure that the military doesn't do anything without our consent, and this resolution would be effect giving consent. And that's a matter that I will be inquiring into today, and I'll be seeing Dennis Kucinich. I think I invited him to come by here, as a matter of fact.
I'd like to enlarge on that. It is against the Geneva Convention to threaten or to provoke or to conduct covert operations. I told every congressman and senator this in fact. I'm telling you now, you're funding that. You have funded it and you've allowed it to happen. You've allowed that to happen. It is against the Geneva Convention to provoke or threaten. There's a UN resolution that prohibits nuclear weapons on ships or anywhere in the Mideast. You're allowing that to happen. Today, you should rescind that money. Get that money. It's illegal. These are illegal acts. We should get all those ships. My plan in there, get all the ships out of the Persian Gulf. Get them out of there because they're provoking. We're surrounding them. We're building permanent bases with money Congress provided. But we need to do that today, not next week. Today, cut off the funding for these illegal operations.
Well, thank you. There happens to be a process around here. And I'm sorry that you include me in all of those who are allowing this to happen. I voted against funding. There's a way when 435 people come together. Let me finish. When 435 people come together, they have a vote. Right. I don't always prevail, or the people that agree with me and you don't always prevail. So it may be generally correct to say that we are allowing this to happen and we have to stop it, but one person cannot rise up and say, stop this. I've just talked to Captain Fisher. He said that it's against 5 or 6 different laws and treaties, and you've got to stop it right now. It doesn't work that way.
Well, it works this way. Pelosi puts that money up for a bid. It doesn't have to go to the floor for that money. It doesn't have to go. Do you agree that the war is illegal? Is the war illegal? Is it a declared war?
It is not a declared war, and that's why I didn't support it and never have.
Okay. If it's not a declared war, it's an illegal war, it's unconstitutional, and anybody that even has anything to do with getting money over there, it doesn't stand the thing called neglect to prevent. Anyone who has the ability to prevent one of these actions happening, this is an illegal war, and that's an illegal appropriation. And somebody needs to file or what? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Well,
They have a lot of passion here.
well, that's okay. Passion, you get high grades for passion. Nothing wrong with that. But I'd like to continue our discussion. As I told you outside before we started, that our discussions will not end when this meeting ends, or nor with anybody else for that matter.